Hello and welcome to today, where we have a special guest, Maxwell I, who is going to be celebrating his new book, Oblivion and Flux, which he just released today. We've got Linda D. Addison with us today, and everybody knows Linda. She is our poetess extraordinaire of Space and Time magazine. And we also have Dan, who has had no warning, so we're just going to bring him up. And Dan did cover art for Oblivion and Flux. So, hi, everybody. Welcome.
Hello.
Hey, Dan.
And congratulations to Maxwell on a gorgeous book. You and Linda have a poem in this book.
We do.
Right? Okay.
Yes.
And one of the things that I wanted to bring up, because this is always like the $1 million question when you come to prose poetry, is what is it? So if you guys want to pitch in because it is art. So there's a lot of definitions that you can have. What is, what makes something a certain thing? So since you're the expert here, because it's your book, Max, why don't you start out and you tell us, and then Linda will tell you if you're wrong or not. And I'm just going along with the majority.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to everyone for being here, because I'm very excited for this book to be in my hands. I actually ordered a copy today, so I do have one. So to answer your question about what prose poetry is, so for those that aren't aware, prose poetry actually has been around for a while. I'm not new to making it. I'm not new to it, but for me at least, prose poetry is kind of like music. It's kind of like writing a melody, creating a melody. It doesn't necessarily have to have a narrative per se, or beginning and an end. It's kind of like a dream. If you remember bits and flashes of a dream, it's something like that. So that's what it is for me. At least in this book, every little poem in this book is kind of like a collection of dreams, or cyber prose. They're just kind of like little bits of something that you would find in a dream, little aspects that maybe you thought you remembered or didn't remember. So that's kind of what prose poetry is, at least for me.
I'll go along with that. It's not as easy as people think. It's not like just writing. It's Maxwell does it exceptionally well. It's like stream of thought, but not. So it's not just sentences put together. So
yeah, I think it's actually harder for me to write prose poetry than like just something with, I like a form because I can hang things in it, but prose, you're really kind of, it's not lyrical. I mean, it is lyrical, but it's not like you don't have any form at all in a way. Your rhythm is the form. So
yeah, and a lot of people get confused and think that it has this, that, and the other structure, but you really have to practice and read about it. But like I said, I don't know. That would be a great question. Like, how did Maxwell fall into this so darn well?
Yeah.
But let's talk about the book, and then we can see if we're going to interview Maxwell later about how to be Maxwell.
Let's put him over the grill. Also want to talk, we have Dan, which is the cover artist for this book, and gorgeous cover.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I want to know how that cover came about as well. Like, how did all this connect up?
That's a good question. I had actually illustrated a prose poem of Max's that appeared in The Audient Void, which is a little zine that I co-produced with Obadiah Barrett. And that was an interesting poem. It was a prose poem, and it was, Max, was that the first mention of your cyber gods?
That was the first, if not the second time I had I think it was Cyber Things was the piece, which is kind of this weird thing about cell phones, but yes.
Well, it went some interesting places, and I don't think it was limited by the whole cell phone idea. It seemed to kind of take that and go off into the ether, that's what I like about it. Anyhow, your other prose poetry, some of which I have not read the whole book, but I've read some of it. It impressed me as needing a cover that kind of harkened back to the new wave sci-fi. For me, there was some aesthetic connection there, and I don't know how much of those guys Max has read, but he's in a similar zone aesthetically, at least in my mind. And so, basically, when he asked me to do the cover, I immediately thought, well, I need to do something similar, or at least in the same tone as what Richard Powers might have done in the 60s or 70s. And I actually have a book of his here, for those of you that are not familiar with him.
Oh, cool.
It's kind of dreamy, abstract,
Yeah.
almost like Moreau from Surrealists, but
Nice.
different. And a lot of his work kind of, it doesn't directly illustrate anything from the works, but it just sets the stage with this great surreal vibe to it, kind of a cosmic surrealism. And that's the sandbox that Max seems to be playing in now. So.
Yeah, I was going to say cosmic surrealism kind of sums up a lot of what I've read from Max. So
Exactly. And so I worked in a Photoshop collage method, and I just kind of grabbed things that I could manipulate and layer, and it just turned out pleasingly psychedelic. And what I was doing.
And I'll say one of my favorite things for those that haven't seen the cover is this kind of like, it's kind of this like almost this like green neon sort of like spectral light coming down this like weird this weird like stairway to nowhere down the center. I'm trying to point to it. My finger keeps going like somewhere. I'm looking at a mirror. But yeah, that was like one of my favorite parts of it. And I'll be honest, I had not heard of Richard Powers until Dan had mentioned it, and then I looked at all of his pictures, and I'm like, I need to write poems about like each and every one of these, because it's so crazy and surreal. So
yeah, I liked when I was looking at the cover. I didn't really see a landscape at first. I saw colors, but then the longer I was looking at it, it's like it pops out and it evolves. So which I will say is a lot like Maxwell's poetry, because a lot of times, like Crimson Faces is one of my all-time favorites. And I read it the first time, and I will tell you, my reaction was, what the hell? And then I read it the second time. I was like, oh, okay. I'm liking it. And then I read it the third time, and I was like, I really like this. This is dark and wonderful, and there is so much here to unpack. And that's actually Ryan's favorite poem. So, of all time, like he still talks about it. So,
I'm glad I
for that. Yeah.
When I first read Maxwell's work a couple years ago, when we started working together, I was just knocked out immediately because prose poetry is not a strength for me. I'm really like, I'm just starting to dive in playing with that. And I was like, oh my God, he did it so beautifully. And this is so freaky. It's like jumping into some kind of psychedelic nightmare. It was awesome.
Yeah, I know. See, and only a group of us would go, a psychedelic nightmare.
That's
that was so
fun.
Awesome.
I don't know. And I guess I enjoy creating these like, I don't know, these weird ethereal liquid shapes that like they could be any, when you talk about like prose poetry. So like, and Angela and I have talked about this too. Sometimes the confusion with prose poetry is that like, people think it should be flash or it should be, because it looks like a paragraph. But, I guess there's not always an end point. Because there doesn't have to be, because it could be this weird shape, this weird creature to you, but it could be some cluster of some cluster of galaxies to someone else. So
yeah.
In my mind, when I try to define it, I always think it's like a bus trip, and I told you this, Maxwell, so you can drown me out. But I always think it's like a prose poem is you're on the bus. And you're riding along and you see a man and you get an impression of the man. So you have what he's wearing, who he might be, who you think he might be, and what he's doing in the atmosphere around him. But if he stops and gets on the bus, then you have the flash fiction, because now there's a story there. So it's the difference between a moment, and it could be a lot of moments, and then something happening,
Yeah.
you know, like an interaction or whatever
So,
with this.
so if he gets on the bus, then he could just be a triangle. You know, I don't know.
Yeah. It
I
could be
mean,
a triangle.
that's the thing about prose poetry that makes it slippery is that it
Yeah.
can be a story. But
Exactly.
it doesn't have to end like Maxwell says. It doesn't have to have an ending. It doesn't have to have a beginning. It's like you're the observer of the whole reaction and in it, you know, without judgment or measurement.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder to define.
Yeah.
And if you do it naturally, kudos, because like I said, I'm working on it. It's like a new thing all of a sudden to me.
Well, I'm
I'm like-
excited for you. I'm excited for you to read the one that we wrote, because I have a the follow up, which is the title poem. Because I think the one we wrote is really fun.
Oh, we had a great time writing together. I knew that was going to happen. I was so excited. I was like, yes, let's do this. Although it's not a prose poem, it's a concrete poem.
Yeah, which unfortunately we have no way to show. But apparently, I've been told, and I have not gotten to this yet, but you have to see this poem because a concrete poem, of course, has shape and a lot of structure. So,
Yeah.
but you know what? I kind of want to start out, and this is up to you guys. Max, this is your show, but I would like to hear the reading of this poem that you guys did.
Well, let's make this happen, Max.
Who's reading? Both of you guys?
I'm reading.
Linda?
Max
All right.
asked me to read. Otherwise, I wouldn't, because it's his show.
All right, well, we are going to disappear and let you guys have the floor or screen.
All right. Well, I will start with this one, and then Max is going to read another one after this. So this is one that we wrote together, a collaboration. Shattered Oblivions by Linda D. Addison and Maxwell I. Gold. Before the end, I had hoped for one last chance to shatter the walls of oblivion. A citadel built from regrets, laid brick by brick, furnished the skies with an iron coat of terror. Bleeding shapes that should have been clouds floated overhead while distorted faces of friends crackled in the purple lightning. A corpulence of laughter erupted from the top of the structure, fleshy and pulse-filled. Their faces bled tears of never again and awful smiles. No, no, no. Together in this madness, drowning in thick oceans of uncertain dread and profane music, choking on loquescence, hatred of reactionary neophytes and pale wraths. I knew we'd never truly be alone. Not like this. Counting backwards, the putrid sunlight refused to change. Trees ungrew in the metallic soil, and they watched our dreams consume themselves. Alone, we always knew the faceless would find us, make our sweat become fire. Before the end, I hope for one last chance, one more try to shatter the walls of oblivion, but not like this. So that was Shattered Oblivions.
Wow. I just have to say, every time you read, Linda, I get like a little crush on you. So,
Oh, I've had good teachers. Even when I mispronounce words, I make them sound good. So.
oh, well, yeah, I couldn't hear anything messed up or mixed up or anything.
all
That
good.
just
That was
all
beautiful.
sounded good, 100% good. So I've got to like, oh, okay, where are we?
Oh, there's so much more to come, though.
Oh, I know. I want to find out, how did you guys, because we talked a little bit about the collaboration, what kind of sparked this? Like, tell me that story.
About the poem or the collaboration?
The collaboration and the poem. Like, how did you guys start that? But like, what did you guys do to decide to do this? John
I'm sorry.
Polisano says, amazing piece, amazing reading, by the way.
Oh, thank you, John.
Oh, thank you. Oh, because I told Linda that I wanted to write a poem with her.
And Linda said, I love your friggin' work. Yeah, let's do this. I actually like, I think it's really important to love the work of someone that you're collaborating with, and also to feel like you like them. And I love Max, so it was easy breezy.
Oh,
Please don't make my glasses match my skin.
I was going to follow up with what's not to love, but we don't want to lay it on too thick.
It's all too true. And wait till you see this reel in the book. It's a concrete poem. The shape is going to be awesome. When we finished it, I was like, oh my God, this is beautiful.
I also wanted us to I also wanted this poem to be kind of like the 11 o'clock number in the show. Like I wanted to just be like bam, and then right at the end, there would be like the title poem.
And I don't know who started this, Max. Did you start it?
I think. Sorry, I'm looking at it. I think I did the. I think I started. I think
you did the first two sentences, lines, and then we went back and forth. And then when it busted into that concrete shape, I was like,
oh wow! So you guys didn't plan for a concrete poem; it just evolved that way.
Yeah.
Oh damn, that's awesome!
Kind of poetry.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so I'm not going to say you're not going to hold it up and just give us a glimpse of the shape, right? No? Mm-mm. All right. Got to buy the book. I've been sharing the links. I'll share it again. So do you want to read now, Maxwell?
Yeah, I'll read the... Prepared? So since Linda read the 11 o'clock number, as it were, I'll read the last poem, the title poem, Oblivion and Flux.
Okay, we'll disappear and give you the screen.
So this is the title poem, Oblivion and Flux. Where inkwells and oceans ebbed and flowed under paper moons, abstractions and illustrations strangled my mind. Oblivion calls, frozen in temples molded from the bones of dead gods, hollowed out by the entropic lunacies and ancient treasons, wandering ever closer toward some blasphemous truth. It felt as if I had arrived. Cellar doors flung open, revealing a shrine to my own disregarded hopes and dreams, dusty and neglected, by the world covered in rags. Music grew louder, ringing in my ears, unholy chants from a dead wood, like I was gliding in a ship of marble and sand. Louder, heavier, faster, the music rose, roiling in my head until all was silent. I'm sorry, old friend. I wish I could have done more, and I wish the walls were shattered, but it wasn't the way I wanted to end. Not like this. Please forgive me. Oblivion calls, and soon I will answer, answering that which never speaks, where inkwells and oceans ebbed and flowed under paper moons, while abstractions and illustrations strangled my mind.
Woo!
Woo-hoo!
Yeah.
Literally,
Okay.
I just wrote in my journal, Bones of Dead Gods. That's another poem. I'm just going to say thank you to Max. That's all.
That's awesome. All right, tell me what made that? What was the nuts and bolts that went into that?
I don't know. I like, so sometimes and I get this from talking with Linda sometimes. I don't know. I hear words, I hear different words, and then I just wonder, I don't know, like the word oblivion and the meaning of the word oblivion, and I just what happens when there's nothing left, like a shattered nothingness. I know that doesn't really make sense, but I just sort of imagined this. I had imagined this sort of like wall of I'd imagine this sort of wall of you know, kind of like that poem that I told you about like sort of like a wall of like thick, like viscous dreams that you could never see beyond. Something like that is what I imagined, like, you know, a shattered oblivion, like. And then that's kind of where then it just kind of went, you know, the rest from there.
Go ahead, Max. Explain it like it's a poem, because that's how we're talking right now. Sometimes Max and I send messages back and forth, and I'm like, well, that's a poem.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, for me, reading his work and the conversations we've had where we've talked about, you know, what drives us. I mean, we both have great love of words. And this is why I love his work so much, is that he does things with words that I've never heard anyone do. And seems to be able to just daydream his way right on through there. And I love that.
Yeah, it's definitely like heavy on the literary richness side, very lush language. And I love that about it. Like Crimson Faces, a poem that you have to read over and over again, I think, to like really digest the different pieces. I think that's my favorite poetry.
I don't know, and it's like, so Memnons of the Night is one of my favorite poems by Clark Ashton Smith, because I feel like I can read that poem over and over again and always think about something different.
Yeah.
You know?
Because it's also your stage of life. Your perception at that moment is different from the perception I know today. I think a lot different than I thought about 2 years ago. So, you know.
Yeah.
I think also because of the way Max weaves images and words in unexpected ways. Like, who talks about the bones of dead gods? I didn't even know gods had bones, much later they dead. But I'm saying he doesn't let that kind of questioning stop him from putting words together and creating almost a new mix of words that then creates an image that each time you read it, I think you're going to see something different.
Yeah, I agree. Because I know you've read part of this, Dan, or probably more than part, because you were actually getting to work on it. Did you feel like the poetry kind of influenced the art, the visual? Like, did that work together, or?
Yeah, I mean, to some extent. I mean, at a certain point, I kind of have to do my own thing, but it needs to be representative to some extent of the style of the work. And with Max, his stuff, like I said earlier, aesthetically, if not in a concrete way, he seems to be exploring a lot of the same headspace that the new age sci-fi writers did in the 60s and 70s. And I love to see that. And from an artistic point of view, that gave me the in with the more psychedelic look. He's basically playing in this with these concepts that are so big that there's no way for me to actually directly illustrate them. So I had to go with a more surreal look.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I love about that cover too. Like the poetry, you got to chew through it. You know, like I said, I didn't see the landscape. Well, I'll say, I don't know if there is a landscape there or not, but that's what I see now.
there kind of is, at least a representation of one.
There's a little bit of texture, like kind of like there's this sort of mossy texture right here, which I kind of perceived as sort of like I'm pointing to nothing. So there's this sort of like mossy texture kind of right here that I kind of saw as like some sort of like alien planet, or you know, or maybe the inside of someone's head. I don't know, something like that.
What I find with my art is if I do something that's completely abstract, it's a lot less interesting than if I ground it with some solid item. So in a lot of my collages, I use a solid landscape with something really weird going on behind it or on top of it.
Okay.
I think the cover is a perfect reaction to the cyber prose, which, as I mentioned in my introduction, doesn't exist as a term. So Maxwell's forever infinitely known for creating that, I think.
Yeah.
But I think the cover is such a really good reflection of that, with the colors, with the shapes. Like the more you look at it, it becomes almost multi-dimensional.
So So actually, originally, and Dan, if it's okay, originally when we were doing cover designs, this was actually this was actually green. I think it was actually green, and then we weren't sure, and then he made the suggestion to make this blue, and then I think that made all the difference. And then when that kind of like popped out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that touch of blue really helped, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love everything about it. I started reading it, I think last week, whenever you sent me the arc. I've been like, but I can't read it fast. That's the thing. I can't just whip through it. I have to sit there like a lot of your poetry. It's that cyber, cosmic, huge element that I have to chew through slowly. So that's definitely not a fast read.
That's the weird thing about Max's prose poetry is that it flows beautifully, but it also kind of wrestles with my brain at the same time. And so I'm like, well, that sounds beautiful, but what just happened? I actually enjoy that sort of interaction.
Yeah.
I'm totally, like I said, 2 years ago. Was it 2 years, Max? It feels like it's been forever that we've known each other. But
I think it was 2 years ago.
One regular year is like 10 pandemic years. So
yeah, right. But I mean, that's the beauty of the work that he creates. I love that we can talk about you like you're not even here, Max. You like that? Anyway,
I'm Maxwell guy.
But the it is not to be read quickly. Why? Because it's like a lot of poetry. Who wants to read 10 poems in a row? You want something to, you want to allow it to sit and react to it and create images in your mind. So, that's no different than any poetry collection.
Yeah. Well,
it's just more psychedelic.
Well, I have another poem that.
Yeah, I was going to say, can we hear another one?
Yeah. So I'm going to read one that hasn't been, because there are some reprints in here, but this other one, I'm going to read is called a Nightmare Couture, because I do enjoy some fashion, but this one is called Nightmare Couture. Stringy gods whose leathery bodies, thin like twine, with faces long and gaunt, dancing along wiry structures, teasing the seething masses of loathsome, hungry consumers with their plastic gifts. Tantalizing and beautiful, they were unable to cope with delusions dressed up by cheap perfumes and tawdry garments. So the gods laughed from their thrones, upholstered in flamboyant, moldy fabrics, odious commandments of not good enoughs, maybe so's, and try again next times. Bellowing their machinations further, the couture gods, twisting, commanding, and catwalking along a microcosm of gilded palaces and costume nightmares, sneered at a world hooked on appropriated feelings of high-fashioned, manufactured platitudes. And dressed in priceless falsehoods, stitched together by crooked romanticisms and banalities of leather and gold, they dwelled in crumbling department stores and modern boutique temples where bloodthirsty worshippers threw themselves so willingly at their feet. Reduce, consume, and destroy, the gods chanted, again as the temples grew overcrowded. Bodies spilling over one another, shopping bags and bones flooding the streets with wild rage, people clamoring to give tribute to Cristobal, Hubert, Louis, and Christian. Faceless things wrapped in canvas, flesh, and fantasy, names constructed out of a mythology of inequality, built into an existence of posh, magnificent garbage. The stringy gods lazily clung to the opulence of their terror, where leathery, eldritch bodies, forgotten like an old handbag with eyes empty and cold, sat on broken wires, collecting dust, dread, and time.
Woo!
Woo-hoo. Yes.
I love that. But that sounds like something I would say about fashion as the non-fashion person. You're actually like very fashionable, is my impression.
I do. I do enjoy, fashion, but I wanted to take it and kind of like twist it a little bit and
Oh, you did.
and twist people's like, I don't know, infatuation with like some of the big brand names, and like look at them as these kind of like, these like plastic gods or whatever. And so I just had fun with it.
God, I love the imagery in that. The canvas, the blank canvas faces, like high fashion zombies kind of stringing through, and everything is destroyed. That's like that's my fashion right there.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's not mine because I like to play with jewelry and
Oh
clothes.
yeah.
I do love the edginess of the whole thing because I'm not my fashion has nothing to do with name brands or anything else. I can make fashion from like anything in my closet. I don't need to go buy new stuff. So
well, I think that's why I wanted to make that's why I like singled out like Cristobal Balenciaga, Hubert Givenchy. Like I wanted to single I wanted to single like some of the like big corporate names as these like these like monsters essentially.
You heard it here first. What
I'm
Maxwell
all in.
thinks of.
I am so in.
What was that line? As all I remember is inequality. Like there was a whole little passage there, and I was trying to like kind of like drink that in, and it just slipped by so fast.
I don't remember. Hold on.
Put him on the spot here. Come on, don't you remember that from heart? I don't ever.
No, sometimes once and I don't know, maybe I don't know if I'm the only one that does this. Once I write a poem, sometimes and it's either published or it's gone. It's like it's gone.
Yeah.
I feel often the same way, so I understand.
Yeah, I think that's why poetry is such good therapy, because it's like Dumbledore's pensieve. He comes and he takes the thoughts and he puts it down in that thing. That's
I wish that would make it so much
is.
easier. I could just take this pen and just go like this. Just put it there. Just put it there.
Yeah, here's a good poem.
Yeah.
I know the line you're talking about. I just can't say that. Names constructed out of a mythology of inequality built into an existence of posh, magnificent garbage.
I love that. I want a T-shirt that says that, and then I will put Maxwell I Gold at the end of it.
It's a great line.
Yeah. But what's happening from here, Maxwell? This is your first poetry book, isn't it?
Yes.
What are your plans after this? Because this one's done. Put it in a drawer. Now we got to go on. What are you doing next? I will let you celebrate a little bit, but.
Well, so unofficially, I'm working on well, not really unofficially. So I'm working on three, I guess. So 3 other projects right now. One being, so you and I are working on a book of call and response poems right now. Titled Mobius Lyrics, and then I'm working on it's sort of so I have a story that I wrote called Mouth of Mirrors that I'm not really sure what to do with it right now, but I decided to kind of take it and maybe turn it into a collection based on that concept of like mirrors and cyber gods. Like I have a couple of poems that have centered around that sort of mythos of like the mirrored ones. And then I'm working on another collection of sort of modern mythology called like Another, like an other, capital O, like Another mythology, with like like Persephone as a drag queen, like Uncle Creasy as an Aunt Midas, like stories like that. Something that's not as like cyber heavy, something that's just a little different.
It's awesome. I cannot wait to read that. That is going to be so awesome. Oh, and there's my dogs. Working at home is great. Do you guys have any questions for Max? Because I want to hear him read something else before we go, but I want to give everybody a chance to kind of.
I can't because Max and I talk so much. We know. You might think I would ask him to say in public to other people.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Max has been after me I'll just admit at least one of the collections you mentioned is something that I may be publishing, possibly.
So yeah, that's why I said like unofficially. But yes, one of those.
Awesome.
I will tell you this, Dan. When Max was putting his book together and talking about the cover, he said you sent me some of his work, not this cover, but some of his work, because you were so excited about him doing it. And whatever it was you sent me, I was like, I am totally feeling this is you. And so it's so wonderful that worked out, because he was really, really, really into having you do a cover for him.
Well, I'm honored and humbled. It was a very fun project, and I'm looking forward to working with him on other things.
Awesome. And that's kind of what it's all about, isn't it? Everybody putting in their skills, their input, and we wind up with these beautiful new creations like Oblivion and Flux.
Exactly.
So, you want to read another one, Max?
Yeah, I'm trying to pick like a shorter one, just in case you wanted me to read Crimson Faces, because I did pull that one out.
Oh, did you? Because that actually, I do really, really love that. So as a selfish thing,
I love that
yes.
one too. I love that one also. So
yeah, I don't know why that one. I think it's just the imagery, and I want to go there, even though it's a horrible place. But I actually want to go there.
I just want to read one more that's original to the collection. Okay, so this other one, this is right after. So this one is right after Crimson Faces. So the one I'm going to read. So I'll read this one first, and then we can do whatever like chapter and then I'll read Crimson Faces.
Okay. I'm excited because I didn't know we were going to get to hear that, and I have actually never gotten to hear Maxwell read that. I've always just read it, so I'm super stoked now. So, all right, well, we're going to give you the screen then.
Okay. All right, this poem is called Rogue. Flying through rocky fields of dust and dream, rogue planets smashed against the desolate confines of my thoughts. Rattling the conscious foundations of reason, rooted in rhizomatic evil, the iron claws of giant winged Nygoths penetrated the dank gutters of this putrid reality. My fucking reality. Time and space were irrelevant to me as dead planets and rotting starry corpses littered the immeasurable horizons beyond. Faster and faster I ran, through demented forests where silver foliage growing on trunks of glassy plastic spewed droplets of metallic syrupy bile. Ghost fungi exhaled a powdery phosphorescence as gurgling vats of miasmal slime churned in pools of liquescent metal. As silicon rainbows hovered above me, leathery wings flapping with a terrible and furious velocity, the dust quickly filled my lungs like some pathetic fleshy sack. There was a clearing ahead. The silver trees were growing thin, the rubbery grass becoming less burdensome upon my feet as I reached the edge of the wood. Standing on the brink, high in my own misery and disdain for this world, the Nygoths closing in, I found a way out. I'm almost there, I cried. Cuts on my arms and legs as brittle bits of debris, silver, gold, and other heavy elements flaked off the bark of the strange trees, scarring my body. The blood and bruises getting worse. I ignored the excruciating pain as I heard the awful thrashing of wings rustle and grow with nervous intensity. Claws reached for my neck, harder and with a profound hunger. No! Stepping towards the crumbling edges of the ancient cliff, rusty howls tugging from behind, I fell into the abysm below, flying through rocky fields of dust and dream as rogue planets smashed against the desolate confines of my mind.
Thing.
Oh, there you go. Wings flapping with some kind of philosophy. I mean, who even thinks like that except you and maybe me? I could do that. It's crazy. It's a crazy thing.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about that one. Like what went into that? How did you come
I was
up
reading
with
an
that?
article about rogue planets. sometimes I read these, like, a lot of these science articles. I was reading an article about like rogue planets into like the solar system or something, or just like how rogue planets sometimes just lose their orbit and they just kind of float precipitously in space or whatever. I don't know. Then I just imagined, like, I don't know, like a rogue planet or like a planet inside your head kind of like smashing into the ground, or something just dragging you through the ground, through the planet. I don't know. Then it just kept going.
That's as good an explanation as any of what's inside your head.
Apparently rogue planets are inside my head.
And rings clapping with philosophy. I mean, come on now.
Yeah. That right there, that's like a whole collection right there. Awesome. So I love it. Anybody have, because I know we're getting to time, and I do want to hear Crimson Faces.
I love and know that one, but I have not heard that in Max's voice, so I'd really love to
I know, that's what I've read it a bunch of times.
I thought I've read that one before. No?
I don't remember that you read that one out loud.
Oh.
Did you read that on one of the open mic things? I don't think so.
Maybe not. I think with God of Phlegm I read.
Yeah, because I would have gotten super excited because I'd be like, I know that one. I mean, not to recite it, but
that was one of my favorites. That was actually, that was unfortunately inspired by, the Orange Idiot. But yes,
so many inspirations from that.
Yes. But yeah, I can go ahead and read that one.
Yeah, go ahead and read that one. And I've got a Chihuahua down here. The Chihuahua has decided, it is love me time. So if you suddenly see a dog pop up, that's what's happening.
I love when pets pop up.
I know, it happens all the time in my house. So, all right, I am ready for some Crimson Faces.
This poem is titled, as you know, this is Crimson Faces. Wandering along the floor of a dying wood, I found strange comfort in the faceless of the night. The empty stars above flickered with a happy dread as the dried leaves, sucked entirely of their greenery, crunched under my leather boots. I could not recall what alien force brought me to this place, but whatever it was, the immensity of the thing in the air weighed down on my thoughts in a way that I could not reasonably discern. An obscure feeling, like that of some opaque, rusty matter seething through my veins. Dust and fog clouded my vision as I followed the dirt road towards a shadowy place. I left the station some time ago, months maybe, years even. Again, those platitudes escaped me, as did everything else. The phlegmatic god had taken what was left of my faulty idealism, drenched in a wretched coat of falsehoods, only to soak it in the bitter stench of my new reality, oozing with crimson pus. There ahead were the ruins of a dead society, one built in the great cyber forges where silver flames belched new stars and birthed innovations so wild men were said to have been driven insane with joy. Though a figment of that city was all that remained, a figment in an empty train station with a burning red hunger racing towards it with an unwilling haste, propelled by that phlegmatic beast whose thirst for an unremitting darkness which fueled its wild locomotion. Pale sprigs and upturned roots passed by my window as the train barreled onward. I smelled the foul odors coming off the petrified wood in the form of some grotesque fungi, mixing with the rusty hinges. My senses militarized themselves in an attempt to counter the offending stenches, but their campaign was thwarted, for the odors were too strong, and my eyes were still muddled with a pustule horizon of iron and blood, only to be reckoned by guttural noises coming from outside the speeding train. The mob of red faces flowed precariously close to the tracks like some sinister music, scored to the backdrop of burning trees and ashy skies, screeching, bleeding with an electrified pain. The zombified glob of what were once human beings thrashed around the halted train car, unable to move, unable to break free from the dark. My writing became more apparent as I stared into the facelessness of their crimson eyes, the eyes of a species that once looked up at the sky with wonder, spoke to the stars with humility, and danced atop towers of ice and rock with gratitude. Now, as a huddled mass of red pustule neophytes clinging to the tracks of Nazareth's demented railway, begging to find their way in a moment of desperate uncertainty.
That ending. Woo, yes. I love that.
I didn't know about you guys, but I listen along. I'm like, oh, I want to ask about this line. Oh, wait. All right. That line is gone. Now there's this line. And I got to go read it again now. So, well, thank you, Maxwell, for letting us celebrate Oblivion and Flux with you. Today is the first day, right? Isn't it just released today?
Yeah.
The book released today. Congratulations. Before we go, because I know everybody has things to do and, life and all that. We can't just talk about poetry all day. I mean, we can, but yeah, then we may get in trouble for it. But I want everybody to just tell what you're doing right now and who you are, because we never really got to introduce our guests. I mean, everybody knows Linda, everybody knows Dan, everybody knows Maxwell, but we want to cross-pollinate here so the people who know Dan can know Linda or whatever. Like, everybody introduce each other. So, Dan, you want to start? Tell us where you are, where we can find you. Not where you are, like we don't want your address.
Well, my address.
Back up now, not the address. But like, where can we find you online? Where's your work? What's going on with you? Where can we get some Dan stuff?
Well, I do a lot of cover art and design for Hippocampus Press. I've been working with them since 2017, and their support has allowed me to go on to a lot of other things while continuing to work with them. I also am involved in The Audient Void, which is a journal of weird fiction and dark fantasy, which is produced here in Salem, Oregon, with my good friend Obadiah Baird, who runs the book bin. And in addition to that, I am the publisher of Jackanapes Press, which is a new endeavor that I really got going about a year ago. And if you let me plug a couple of my books.
Yeah, plug away.
These are the two that I currently have out. Past the Glad and Sunlit Season by Poems for Halloween by K.A. Opperman, and The Withering by Ashley Diosas.
Nice.
And I can't recommend either of these poets highly enough. They are magnificent. And I actually have a second volume of Kyle's Halloween poetry in the works. Hopefully it'll be ready in time for Halloween.
Awesome.
I'm also publishing John Shirley's very first collection of poetry.
Oh, nice.
It's amazing that he's been such a legend for so many decades, and this is his first collection of poetry.
I can't wait for that. I got to edit one of his short story collection. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. Excellent writing. Fell in love. Absolutely fell in love.
He's fantastic. And his book is almost ready. It will be out later this summer or early in the fall.
Okay.
Voice of the Burning House.
Ooh, nice.
And I'm also working on a short story collection by Adam Bolivar, who's a good friend and a fantastic poet. He's a balladeer and a puppeteer, and just a very interesting person and a great friend. I'm also doing a book with Pete Rawlik, a novella in his Reanimatrix series. So if I can manage to put all those out by the time the H.P. Lovecraft Film Festival comes around, I'll be doing well.
Yeah. Well,
Dan, do you have a site? What's your site, Dan?
Yes, jackanapespress.com.
Let's see if I can find that, and I will drop it in the links.
Fantastic.
How about you, Linda?
Well, I'll start off with the site, Linda Addison Writer, one word altogether. .com. So what's going on? Well, hey, Dan did covers. I'm gonna do covers of books I'm in, because you don't want to see me do art. Ooh, that was a sad moment in humanity. But anyway, I have a story in Black Panther, Tales of Wakanda.
I have mine in the book in the bookshelf.
There you go. There's no pictures, by the way, folks. This is stories. And 18 stories, a lot of fun. Mine is about the Dora Milaje, which is the warrior women. And I throw in some multiple reality because I'm obsessed with that these days. And the new one, another new one that came out is Under Twin Suns. These are all on my site. Under Twin Suns, which is like weird stuff, right? And I have a poem in here. It's kind of amazing. It's all like has to do with this guy. I didn't even know about him until Jim Chambers hit me up.
That's the King in Yellow anthology, isn't
it? Yes, that's it. Thank you, Maxwell. I was like, I don't know of this. And then I went and read it the first time and nothing. And then the second time I wrote this poem, I was like, oh, wow.
I've never heard of it either until that anthology.
It's so cool. It's a lot of fun. So there's that. And then I'm dipping into the novel writing world because it only took me 50 years to get over being creative doing that. Anyway, I'm just my last thing to say is I have no words for how happy and I am for Maxwell. It's like, it's like emotionally, I feel like it's my book. I'm so happy. So
I don't know. I'm so happy that everyone here could have been a part of that. So I'm over the moon. So I know it doesn't look like it, but I am.
This is the most excited I've seen you in 2 years, man. You're really bouncing right out the picture here.
I know.
Hey, say your website again, Linda, because I'm sorry, there's so many links online about you. I'm having a hard time finding the one to share.
Linda Addison Writer, altogether.com.
Writer.com. All right. How about you, Max? Tell us where you are and what you're doing.
So you can, my website is thewellsoftheweird.com. And kind of like what I was saying before, I'm just kind of working on those 3 collections right now. And actually almost just, I think I told you about this story. I actually just finished a story called Drag, Queen of the Underworld. I actually finally just finished it.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, apart from those kind of 3 projects, that's really actually not really it. But that's because that's taking up a lot of my time. But yeah, that's all that I'm kind of working on right now.
Awesome.
What's new in Angela land?
Oh, wow. I'm not prepared for that question. Like a lot of stuff. No, there's a bunch of anthologies and I can't think of any of them right now. Oh, except for the Douglas Dre. Am I saying that right? Dre.
Oh yeah, I guess I forgot about that. Yeah, we're both
zombies.
And we're both on the cover, so that's exciting.
I know, we're like cover people. So yeah, that and working on the next issue of the Space and Time, which got delayed until September, and super excited about that. We're gonna have double the poetry, more. So it's gonna be a thick issue to kind of close out the year. But then we're not doing the winter issue. Because we've just decided in the winter, it comes out so late that all the authors and poets and artists in it can't get any exposure for the awards because it literally is like a week before the end of the year. So it's just not fair to them. So no more winter issues. It'll be a combined issue with the autumn. So, but that's pretty much it for me right now that I can think of off the top of my head. Now that I got the Chihuahua out of here and I'm trying to not wipe Chihuahua fur off my face. Try to discreetly wipe the hair off my nose.
Now, is that Chihuahua a cyber dog?
Yeah, pretty much. He's a Chiweenie officially, so he's a giant Chihuahua.
So I have to write a poem about a cyber dog now.
And it's got to be a Chihuahua, and it's got to be bigger than Earth.
We adopted him. He was teeny tiny. Like he would sit in my robe. And he could shoot out the end of the sleeve of the robe when he got mad. And look at him now. He just kept growing and growing. So now I've been like, oh, man, are you going to be – and his name is Chupacabra. So I'm kind of like, how big can you get? Because you're like already kind of scary. So
bigger than a planet, Max. You on this? Are you pitching me? You see what I'm saying here?
I'm doing the Harry Potter thing. I'm taking, just Just taking some notes.
Doing the rings of Saturn. I'm just saying.
Hey, if you need any inspiration, Maxwell, I will share. I have 6 dogs. I've got 2 wieners that can come your way right now. Just let me know. I will personally drive them. Oh, well, that's about it for time, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Linda. As always, you're beautiful. I just love you. I am like such a huge fan. Maxwell, you're beautiful. I love you. I'm a huge fan. Love your work. Dan, I've never met you before, but you're awesome. And now I'm a huge fan now that I know you. And I hope you won't be a stranger.
I feel the same way about you. So
awesome.
Well met.
Awesome. Well, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for being here, for taking your time out. And thank you, Maxwell. Congratulations. You have a beautiful book baby there.
Thank you.
So happy for you, Maxwell. So happy.
So thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Nice meeting you.
Great meeting you too, Dan.